Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerantz, and we're joined by Chris Ungar. He is the President-Elect of the California School Boards Association, also a member of the school board at San Luis Coastal Unified School District. We're in San Luis Obispo today, and sir, I'd like to speak with you about the California state budget, recently signed, continued growth in K-12, K-14 funding.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, because the budget is so tied to the economy of California, and we've had a great economy the last year, just particularly the last year, right?
No doubt.
What we've seen are really what I would call almost massive increases in our Prop 98 guarantee. And just a reminder to everybody that Proposition 98 is the constitutional amendment that guarantees schools, K-12, actually through community college, about 40% of the state budget.
And let's talk about Prop 98, because it has caused some concern that K-12, K-14, as much as we love our schools, is getting dramatic preferences to the detriment of other budgetary items. And so there has been discussion about whether some items that were not considered part of Prop 98 should be put into that formula so that everyone can participate in the growth in our budget.
Right, and you are absolutely right. For example, there was a movement to try to put childcare into Proposition 98. School folks don't have a problem with childcare, but we are concerned about putting childcare into Proposition 98. And one of the reasons we are is that it is a very high growth program. And so it may be, I think it was $600 million, may go in right now, but what would that growth look like in the future? And would we be able to sustain that? And is it really appropriate to put childcare into school funding?
But is it appropriate? I mean, I know the voters said it was appropriate to guarantee 40% funding, but is that really appropriate to have a set amount every single year for education, despite what may be happening around the state?
Well, you know, we could argue about that. Certainly, the thing is, it's a constitutional amendment, and it's the requirement that 40% be spent. But the thing that people need to remember too is that 40% of the state budget, of course, varies depending on what the state budget is. So if we look at the past few years when we had furloughs, we had teacher layoffs, we had classified staff layoffs, that was because, although we were guaranteed 40% of the state budget, the state budget is a fluid number. Would we like to see more money for everybody? I think that's a fair statement. One of the things we can talk about is, what do revenues look like? What does the tax system in California look like? And is it sustainable for what we need?
And let's talk about that, because as you know, part of the reason why the state is flush with money is because of Prop 30. And Prop 30 passed in 2012. In 2016, part of the additional revenues from Prop 30 expire. Those are the increase in sales tax. Governor Brown has said he does not want to extend the sales tax. What will that do to K-12 funding when those sales taxes expire?
Sure, and just a reminder to people as well, Prop 30 is two parts.
It is.
So it's the sales tax, and then there's an additional tax on on wealthy people, and that's going to expire, I think, 2 years after the sales tax. Well, of course, without this continuing increase in the state economy and the boom that we're seeing, it will diminish the amount of money that's available for schools, which, when we diminish that amount that's available for schools, as you mentioned before, it's going to take money away from other things in California, other very worthy things. You know, if you really think about the tax and the revenue system in California, we've been sort of attacking it in a piecemeal fashion since about Proposition 13.
Oh, there's no doubt. And I'm sure you know that State Senator Bob Hertzberg is looking at our tax system. And he's looking at sales tax in such a way that sales tax would actually decrease, but what would be subject to sales tax would increase. And the score on that is an additional $10 billion in revenue to the state if you spread out the categories with which sales tax is levied. I mean, I know you're not a tax elected official, but that being said, what's your general sense on the question?
Well, first of all, a tax on services is not a rare thing in the United States. It's not something we've done in California. And of course, when we established the sales tax, people were buying durable goods, essentially. You know, I mean, we think about durable goods as big things, durable goods, little things.
Right.
Now, the economy in California, of course, has shifted to a service economy.
Right.
So, would it broaden the revenues? Might it stabilize revenues? I think the argument that I've heard is that yes, it could do that. Would there be resistance to establishing this services tax? There probably would be resistance on that. Now, if the other sales tax were lowered, maybe it wouldn't be such a hit for people. It may be a little bit more regressive. You know, sales tax is a regressive tax.
I want to ask also about where money is being spent with regard to K-12. With more monies coming in, as I understand it, a lot of focus is being placed on class size, especially, I think, exclusively K-3. And I'm wondering, is that the level where class size reduction should stop at 3?
Well, I'll tell you a story.
Please.
So I was meeting with superintendents and business officials yesterday, and one of the superintendents told this story about how he was sitting at a meeting in, I think, Virginia, talking to several superintendents, and they were talking about class size, and he says, yeah, well, my class size is 20 to 1. And they said, really, 20 to 1? Or, you know, where is it? And he said, well, K3. K3 and 9, right, for English. And they looked at him and they said, well, our class size is 20 to 1, K-12.
In Virginia.
In Virginia. Yeah. So we see in California, yes, we have class size reduction, but it's not throughout the grades. And so you get to a larger school district like Los Angeles or high schools where you're really talking about, you know, 30 to 1.
30? Sometimes 40.
And sometimes 40, which...
Although, is it that way right now?
I don't think it is right now. But nonetheless, it's a lot of kids.
See, I wonder, though, if there should be more focus on junior high. Because I feel as if junior high really is the place where kids can get lost.
Yeah.
And, you know, once you hit high school, 30 kids, 40 kids in a class, I don't know if it's that critical. You know, college, you're going to have 300 kids in a class. But junior high, you lose them.
Well,
and
you know, and I think, and that's a really interesting point. Junior high, I think, is clearly one of the most important grade spans that we look at. For example, what we've done here in San Luis Obispo at one of our middle schools, we added a 6th grade to it, and we added a STEAM component to it. So we made a program that we think really meets the needs of kids better, and that allows them to have those, although the class sizes are not 20 to 1, but they have these strong interactions with their teachers.
Let me ask you, under the local control funding formula, where local districts have more control, can you as a district make a decision to have class size reduction, K5, K8?
Absolutely, you can make those kinds of decisions. Of course, where are you going to find the money to do it?
But because you could make, well, but that's the question. Can you shift dollars around in such a way where under categoricals you couldn't, no?
Well, yes, and absolutely you can shift that money around, but you got to have the money to do it. So one of the most expensive things we can do is to reduce class sizes. Because remember, you reduce class sizes, you need additional staff. Not only that, but you need additional rooms. So there's a lot to it. And the other thing is, at what point is class size really significant? So is it 20 to 1? You know, some people say really you should get it down to about 15 to 1, especially in high poverty schools.
Well, what do you think?
What I'd like to see 15 to 1.
But what about in junior high?
In junior high, you know, I'm not going to name a number because I don't know what the appropriate number is. But certainly, I think as a former teacher, 20 to 1 is better than 30 to 1. Especially if we look at this really people talking about coming up sort of individual plans for all students instead of just special education students right now.
His name is Chris Ungar. He is the President-Elect of the California School Boards Association, also a member of San Luis Coastal Unified School District. I'm Greg Palmer. It's Charter Local Edition.